Cardio training is often lumped into a single category of exercise. However, there are different types of cardio that we can perform, and each type has different reasons for use. In this video, we will cover what types of cardio there are and how to use each type based on your goals. First, let's discuss what different types of cardio there are. While there are essentially infinite ways to perform cardio, I have organized cardio training into three general categories that encompass the majority of training types. The first of which is general physical activity. This includes both intentional exercise, such as going for a run or playing sport, as well as consequential exercise, such as gardening or walking around the supermarket. A rough general marker of general physical activity is our total daily step count. While it isn't a perfect metric, steps account for most forms of exercise and give a good general indicator of overall physical activity levels. For some general classifications, if you are accumulating less than around 5,000 steps per day, that would be considered a low activity level. 5 to 10,000 can be considered moderate, 10 to 15,000 can be considered high, and greater than 15,000 can be considered very high. The second type of cardio I have classified as general aerobic exercise. This refers to exercise which is performed to improve our aerobic fitness. So this would include slightly higher intensity forms of exercise that require our cardiorespiratory system to be worked to a decent magnitude. Some examples include jogging, cycling, or swimming at a reasonable intensity for an extended duration. However, the important distinction between this and the following category is the fact that this refers to non-specific aerobic exercise, meaning it isn't necessarily intended to improve performance of a specific sport or event. And the third category I have classified as endurance training. Like general aerobic training, this refers to higher intensity exercise which is specifically performed to improve our aerobic fitness. However, the difference here is that endurance training has the purpose of improving performance of a specific sport or event. For example, this might include training for a marathon or a cycling event. Now that we have established the three general types of cardio training, let's look at which forms of cardio are best for various health and fitness related goals. There are four general goals that cardio can help with. The first and most important benefit of cardio training is its benefits for general health and longevity. Cardio has the ability to improve our health and ultimately how long we live for. Just being somewhat active in any capacity tends to be beneficial for overall longevity. This is probably due to beneficial effects for a number of factors such as improved cardiovascular health, bone density benefits, mobility benefits, and strength benefits. In fact, higher activity levels are associated with a lower mortality risk. Multiple meta-analyses show this effect, with most of them demonstrating a beneficial but diminishing returns relationship between step counts and mortality risk. Being moderately active seems to be highly beneficial for reducing mortality risk compared with being sedentary. Beyond this, being highly active seems to further reduce mortality risk but has far less additional benefit. So while general physical activity seems to be beneficial for health and longevity, are there additional benefits regarding higher intensity forms of cardio? Well, this is something that isn't entirely clear at this stage, but it is certainly possible. It does seem that having better cardiorespiratory fitness levels also shows beneficial effects for health and longevity. This was seen in this large-scale study, which classified over 750,000 adults into cardiorespiratory fitness categories based on a submaximal treadmill test. It was found that those in the highest fitness category had around a 4 times lower likelihood of death over the next 10 years compared with those in the lowest fitness category. And while greater fitness levels are also associated with a lower mortality risk, it isn't clear if this is independent of general physical activity. It could be that doing some additional higher intensity cardio might have additional independent benefits for health and longevity that we don't get from general activity alone. So overall, when it comes to health and longevity, I think the most important thing is to be generally physically active. Accumulating a minimum of 5,000 steps per day is probably the most important baseline factor. If you can achieve over 10,000, that will probably be further beneficial, and if you are able to accumulate over 15,000 steps per day, that might have a slight additional benefit, but probably not anything major. And for some additional benefits, it may also be a good idea to implement some slightly higher intensity exercise 1 to 2 times per week that gets your heart rate up a little higher than standard walking. The next outcome that cardio can help with is weight management. This is the ability to get to and maintain a healthy body weight and body composition. Cardio can assist in this goal via its ability to expend energy. And since body weight change is a result of the net balance between energy intake versus expenditure, cardio can increase the expenditure side of the equation, helping to promote a lower energy balance. In this case, energy expenditure seems to be more related to total physical activity levels rather than the number or type of cardio sessions performed. This is because counting individual cardio sessions doesn't necessarily represent someone's activity levels throughout the entire day and the entire week. For example, if we were to perform 3 45-minute cardio sessions per week, we would certainly burn a decent amount of calories within each session. However, this only accounts for a little over 2 hours of the entire week. If we are mostly inactive for the other 166 hours, our overall energy expenditure throughout the week may not actually be all that much elevated compared to baseline. In terms of measuring physical activity levels, again, total step counts are probably going to be a better metric. This is because our total activity levels are going to be more representative of our total daily energy expenditure rather than tracking individual cardio sessions. Moving on to the next goal, we have general aerobic fitness. This refers to being at a reasonable aerobic fitness level to where we can perform most general activities to a moderate level without being limited by aerobic fitness. This includes activities such as walking upstairs, going for a light jog, and possibly playing recreational sport. For general aerobic fitness, we usually need to incorporate some slightly higher intensity cardio. This is necessary to stress our cardiorespiratory system a little more so that it becomes more efficient at uptaking, transporting, and utilizing oxygen by the working muscles. However, the exact type of cardio exercise isn't all that important in this case, since we aren't necessarily trying to have maximum transfer to a specific sport or endurance event. So pretty much any form of exercise that gets your heart rate into a moderate to high level will be sufficient to develop general aerobic fitness. Modalities such as uphill walking, running, cycling, rowing, circuit training, and so on can all be effective. For developing aerobic fitness, the intensity of training is more important than simply tracking your general physical activity levels. This is because we need to stress our cardiorespiratory system enough to stimulate cardiorespiratory adaptations. For example, this study compared aerobic fitness levels between people performing different activity levels. 70 adults had their habitual activity levels tracked for 4 consecutive days and were categorized into 3 groups: those who had a low daily step count, those with a higher step count, and those with a higher step count who also included higher intensity exercise as part of their habitual routine. Those in the higher step count group didn't have a meaningfully different VO2 max compared with the low step count group. However, those including higher intensity exercise had a significantly higher VO2 max compared with the other 2 groups. So for some general guidelines, I'd recommend performing some sort of aerobic exercise that gets your heart rate above around 70% of your max. The exact exercise type or modality isn't really important. Any form of general cardio will work for this purpose. For general aerobic fitness, doing this 1 to 3 times per week is probably enough to develop your capacity to a moderate level in addition to having reasonable general activity levels. And the final primary goal of cardio training is for endurance performance. By this, we are referring to improving performance of a specific sport or event. This includes endurance sports like running, cycling, and swimming, and also where endurance is a part of another sport like football, rugby, or basketball. In these cases, we want to train in a way that is specific to the sport or event for maximum transfer. For example, if we were training for a 5-kilometer run, then we would want to regularly perform continuous running for distances of around 5 kilometers. To improve swimming performance, we would want to swim regularly with the same stroke and distances similar to the competition event. Or if we wanted to improve our endurance for a team sport like the various football codes, we would probably want to perform intermittent multi-directional repeated sprints with shorter distances and higher intensities. Sport-specific training can also be supplemented with general aerobic training, sometimes called cross-training. This can help to develop a general aerobic fitness base that will benefit basically all endurance-based activities. This can be used to mitigate repetitive joint stress or to limit mental monotony. However, to maximize performance of a specific sport or event, we need to do some more specific training at some stage to train the specific systems required for that activity. In summary, let's briefly recap what we have discussed. Cardio can be organized into 3 general categories. General physical activity refers to all forms of movement throughout the day, which is best quantified via our average total step count. General aerobic exercise refers to higher intensity exercise, which aims to improve our cardiorespiratory fitness levels. And endurance training refers to specific training related to the sport or event you are training for. For health and longevity, it seems that simply being active in some capacity is most important. Achieving at least around 7,000 steps per day seems to be enough to achieve the majority of cardio-based health benefits. Higher activity levels seem to be further beneficial, but with diminishing returns. It also may be additionally advantageous to include some general aerobic exercise 1 to 2 times per week for some additional cardiovascular health benefits. In terms of weight management, general physical activity seems to be most predictive of total energy expenditure. This is because it accounts for our total activity levels across the entire day rather than individual exercise sessions. For general aerobic fitness, general aerobic training is going to be most appropriate. This can help us develop a general aerobic fitness base that can improve our general functionality and performance of various activities. And when it comes to endurance performance for a specific sport or event, we want to implement some specific endurance training. This should be similar in modality, intensity, and duration to that of the sport or event we are training for. This can also be supplemented with general aerobic training to mitigate monotony and joint stress. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this video. Check out flowhighperformance.com for online coaching, training templates, ebooks, and more.